So just to give you the current state of things. Oh, I need to have a button like that turns that off so it doesn't accidentally get into fights. Where's this music from? So that's Legend of Zelda music, and then in preparation for our upcoming fight sequence. And then for ultimately our victory. All right. We'll probably have to get the losing music too. But but since we're the programmer, we'll never lose. Yeah, you can always have like you're at one hit point, and it's kind of like Rocky Balboa versus the Russian. Just one last swing. It takes some damage. By all intents and purposes, that guy should have been dead in round 2. Greatest movie ever made. Everybody here has seen Rocky 4, right? Yeah. Second greatest movie was Creed 2. Creed 2 was a Rocky 4 remake. This brought the Russians kid in there to fight Rocky's protege. Same thing. Okay. So let's keep truck. We did not have homework, right? We're still in the process of doing some stuff. Okay, so I'll kind of introduce some of these things as we go. And just while we're at it, we added some new things last time with some inheritance stuff. So things I didn't necessarily expect you to do for the homework assignment, but just trying to loop stuff back into normal programming-y stuff. So quickly, let me just show you what I'm doing to get the music playing as a starting point. So I just brought in these WAV files, WAV files. The way I got these files, first of all, make sure that the music is not copyrighted, yada, yada, yada. You do you. I just searched on YouTube, found the thing I wanted, go to a website that converts YouTube to audio, pasted the thing in there, got the MP3, went to another website that converts MP3 to WAV files, got the WAV files, drug it in here as an asset. Okay, but again, don't do that with music that has copyrights and all that stuff. What's up? No, all no Nintendo stuff is no longer copyrighted from the early days. That's why all those it's legal to have all those things that run the 700 video games or whatever from original Sega Genesis and Nintendo. Yeah. Huh? The emulators? The emulator software itself is perfectly legal. Yeah. Yeah. The emulator software itself is perfectly legal. Running things on the emulator that you don't own are not legal. But Nintendo, basically all the 8-bit video games, I think the 16-bit stuff too, is all open source now. Or open use, fair use. So you can run it. Nobody has claim to it anymore. So it's perfectly legal to do that. Now, if you're pirating Xbox games, probably not allowed is what it comes down to. Yeah. How do you tell you kind of like look up is this copyright basically? Yeah. I mean, do your due diligence, find out if what you're about to do is legal to do. Again, you do whatever you're going to do. But since I upload the videos to YouTube has a thing where it'll go through and listen for copyright material. And it'll flag videos and things like that. Yeah, that's fine, but just be aware of that. I have no idea. I'm guessing it's still copyrighted because it's still active and things like that. All right. So let me quickly show you how I accomplished this music thing. And let me actually, why don't we go ahead and turn off the fight ability here just real quick, just so we don't accidentally fall into that scene. So testing happens pretty quickly. So we ask ourselves, how might we do that? As of right now, I think it's in our player controller, right? Oh, and by the way, rebooting my machine did allow Visual Studio to open again. All right, so if I go into my player controller, let's see. Where's my fight thing? Where'd I do fighting? Oh, that was in the monster trigger, right? Yeah. So here's the monster trigger. So one thing I could do is I could just set a variable up here. Maybe public bool enable fights. Start that guy off at true. And then down here on my on trigger enter, only do this stuff if this dot enable fights is true. Oh, ninja. All right, so I'll just wrap it around that Boolean. So it defaults to true. I'll only do this if it's true, but by me making that variable public, now I'll have a little checkbox out there in my game where I can say, I don't want fights to be enabled for right now. We just have to remember that if we want to re-enable fights later on, we got to go and hit that checkbox again. So we'll go back over to Unity here. Who did I attach that to? The monster triggers, these guys right here. So here's my monster triggers. Notice now I have a little checkbox for enable fights. I highlighted all of them, and I'll just uncheck that checkbox. So now we shouldn't accidentally fall into fights. Such a great game. See, this is a mashup, original Zelda and original Final Fantasy. Yeah. You know how many times I skipped elementary school for that? Yeah, early days. I had the original Game Boy. Yeah, it still works. All right. So now just to look at the music. So what I did is I created this empty game object. Well, now what I originally did before I realized what the problem was. Pay attention. Shut up. Focus on me. All right. What I originally did is I just decided, okay, you know what? The scene always has the camera. I'll just go ahead and add this audio source to the camera. So I originally did that. I had this audio source on the camera. Now, what happens though is because of the way we've written our game, when we go through door after door, it reloads a brand new scene, which means the music starts all over. Well, it doesn't start looping, it just resets and starts playing from the beginning. So it loses its fluidity, right? Okay. So what I needed to do is I needed to have the ability to make sure that whoever started playing the music continued to play the music until I didn't want it to play the music anymore. So what I did is I added a empty game object that I named Jukebox. All right. And I went ahead and added the audio source to that. So here's the audio source component. And then you just drag the WAV file over that you want. I think technically it's supposed to play MP3s and OGG files. There's different files, but Wave is going to be uncompressed. It'll give you the best performance at the cost of a larger file size. That's the dealio, but you do whatever you want. All right, so I added the audio source component to this empty game object. I drug in the WAV file that I wanted the audio clip to be, and I went ahead and clicked loop. That way, as long as I'm sitting on the same scene, it'll keep looping. But you know, the audio is like, I don't know, a minute long or something. So it shouldn't remind you too much of what you just heard 4 seconds ago or something. All right, but I have this little script called the music looper script. And let me show you that guy. He's nothing fancy, real tiny script. I don't use start, I don't use update, so we can actually just dump those. I did introduce a new point thing called awake. This technically happens before start. I don't remember, had I shown you that before, awake? Okay, so there's like these multiple times where you can interject logic into your game. The same thing exists if you're doing Android or iPhone programming. In iPhone, it's like, view will appear, view did appear, view will disappear, view did disappear. You have, multiple different opportunities to do various logic that you might want to have happen at different points in time as you're moving between screen and screen in your mobile app. Same thing's true here. Awake happens before the script actually starts running. So if I want to have it happen immediately before anything else happens, I can put it inside of awake. And what I did is I just threw another variable up inside of master data, and I made this guy the game object for music looper. I started off at null. Now, in order to give myself access to game objects, I had to bring in the Unity engine namespace, just so it knows about that object. All right. You could have accomplished this with just a Boolean here and then use the object out there, but I brought the game object in here. I started it off at null. So the default setting is there is no music looper object. So the very first time we have that empty game engine, game object called that is my jukebox. When that spins up and awakes for the first time, it asks the question, does master data already have a music looper variable set? If it's currently equal to null, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set it to this original instance of that music looper. And then I'm going to tell this instance, don't destroy yourself when we're switching between scenes. When we load a new scene, this guy should not die. He should persist. All right. But I also need to have an else. So if this is not the first time the jukebox showed up on the screen, I need to go ahead and destroy it. Otherwise, we'll have competing jukeboxes. You'll have one that's 3 seconds in, and you have another one that's just starting over, kind of like our own little symphony type thing, or as instead of, we'll just pretend like that's the right word. I'm not sure it is, but go with it. All right. Makes sense what we're doing here? All right. So I basically just start a single jukebox on the very first screen, get the music rolling. This guy will set that global variable one time, and he will make sure that that guy stays alive in perpetuity until I change my mind, right? And any other instance of the jukebox that ever tries to come into existence, we'll just destroy immediately. That way we get the nice music that just keeps playing. I put it on the jukebox. Yep. So notice here over in the left, it says don't destroy on load, and jukebox is inside there. So it's still playing that. But notice I do not have another jukebox up here. I destroyed it immediately as I got to this guy. Yeah, I don't even understand that. All right, so that makes sense how I handled the music thing. And again, this is just playing within the rules of Unity. There's probably 10 other ways you could have sort of kind of accomplished the same thing. In fact, Unity probably has some sort of built-in singleton ability that I don't know about that allows you to kind of have persistent game objects that live throughout that continue to exist between scenes. That would make sense that Unity has that. I'm not aware of it. A Google search would probably reveal such a thing, but at this point, we solved the problem using the tools that are currently in our toolbox. We said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And we have it working. Sound good? All right, so that's the music side of it. Okay, now what else did I do? Well, there is a thing called the asset store for Unity. So if you want to get some of these, I mean, super high definition 4K stuff like this, what I have here, you go up to, there's multiple ways to get to it, I'm sure, but you can go up to window, and then you have something called a package manager here. So the package manager is your internal thing here that shows you all of the packages that are currently part of your, that are either in your project. So here's the stuff that's part of my project. And we had used this one other time, if you remember, when we were doing the original controller for the arrows following the rollerball tutorial, and we decided that was stupid and we just wrote it differently the second time. But this is our package manager that manages the things we have access to that we can import into our projects. Now, if you get a little down arrow here, we have a thing called My Assets. So you need to make sure you're logged in under your account on here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do I have a button to get me there from here? This guy, add packages. Okay, so I don't see the button on here, but there might be. I'm going to go up to Window, and I'm going to just click on Asset Store. Now, Asset Store historically was actually embedded inside of Unity. It came with the asset store in there. Now it takes you out to a website, and I think for performance reasons. So I'll click on Asset Store. Here's it telling me it's moved. You can visit the asset store on the website. So just click on Search Online. It'll take you over to the website. Make sure you are logged in. That way, if you're logged in on the Unity app and you're logged in on Unity's asset store, it's a free account, right? If you're logged in on both, then they're linked. Anything you do on here will show up in there. All right. And there's all sorts of different things in here, along with a filter that says only free assets. Okay. There are a bunch of paid assets, people who make these 3D models with animations and things like that. And I mean, this is effectively their app store for their artwork and that kind of stuff. So as you start building your games, there's certain things you might decide, hey, I'm not going to make that myself. This other person already did it. They deserve the money for it, just like you're buying an app or something. So you can look at that stuff. But what I did is I went in here and, for instance, I was looking for like a dungeon thing. So I just did a search for dungeon. And it brings all of these things up here for dungeons. And under pricing, I just clicked on free asset. And now it shows me various free dungeon things. I just randomly picked, I don't know, it was going to show up in here. Actually, I might have already had that dungeon thing in my thing from years ago. Oh, here's like an RPG dungeon, you know. But in any case, once you pick something and it brings it into your project, it'll show up inside of the package manager whenever you click on My Assets. So I have this thing called Small Cave Kit, is what this guy was called. Okay. The first thing you would do is you would download it. Then you'll import it. And when you import it, it brings in a big list of stuff. You can pick and choose which things you want from that list. Usually I just bring in the whole thing and then delete things that I don't want. All right. Now, what I did, I just was trying to throw this together pretty quickly here, is I went into, here's the folder for Small Cave. This is what'll show up in here. And I've already deleted a bunch of stuff. Okay, it has a folder for models, for cave, and then we have this thing called cave parts. Oh, let me show you the best. Actually, here, I can show it to you here. So notice here, let me give you the top view. So you see the cave like that right now, right? I just decided, hey, we have 4 directions. We're going to use that piece. But notice that this visual asset called cave parts has a whole bunch of stuff that I've turned off. So if I come down here and I turn those back on, you'll see that this guy is actually significantly more involved. So I just looked at the various things. I have like a little, curve around the corner here. I have a dead end, so a T, different straightaways, whatever. But for our game right here, this guy kind of solved the problem. So I clicked on this to find out which one is the guy I wanted. I clicked on all the rest of them and I hit him. And I just placed that guy where I wanted it on the screen. And I actually still have, I'm only using him for visual. All right. So that guy actually does not have, any collider or anything like that on him. So what I still have is I still have my floor. Where's my floor? Who? Oh, inside room. Thank you. So I still have my floor here and I've just turned off the mesh renderer for it. So technically, our player is still rolling around on our invisible floor, but what we're visually seeing is our little north, south, east, west cave tunnel thingy-majig. Make some sense? Different assets. I'll show you that here in a second. All right. So in any case, there's probably better ways of doing that. I'm sure you can find a dungeon thing and actually use that for the terrain, especially when you're doing 3D type games where your guy will actually like go up on top of rocks and things like that. Super, you can make it way fancier than this. Usually when you get a some sort of asset, let me go back in here. I'll pick something. Here's this blue dungeon thing. Let's just look at this. So yeah, I mean this guy's kind of I don't know, looks kind of cool. I'll go ahead and click on add to assets. I'll read all that and accept it. All right, so now this is inside my assets. I'll click on open in Unity. It'll just take me back here. So now we see I have my blue dungeon shows up there in my list of assets, my assets. It's not in my project yet. This is my package manager that I have access to. So I'll go and download this thing first. Then I'll import it. It's bringing in all this stuff. I can go and look at it closely if I want, but I'll just usually click import, bring the whole thing in. And usually, so let's see, that's this guy right here. This triple dungeon pack is what I got. I got this folder right here. So usually what they do is they give you a sample scene. So I'll go in there. Here's my demo for my blue dungeon. And there is your blue dungeon. Right now, I don't have a player that rolls around in there or anything like that, so I could probably put that if I wanted to explore it. But in any case, this is showing you a use for that guy. So I can, look at the whole dungeon here. I can click on parts of it, zoom in on that part. Let's see, what was this guy? Okay, that's that ground. So, and then if I really like a certain room on there, I can kind of highlight the pieces of it that I want and copy it and take it back over to my scene and paste it in there. And I have the awesomeness that I didn't have to create. All right. So in any case, that's kind of the go-to move for these things. Sometimes you have, and I'll show this with the door thing. Sometimes you'll have examples of things that have the animations and the moving parts in their demo scene, and you might want to get that into your project. So you can see how the guy, how they make the guy run or something like that. And you can learn from that, bring it into your scene, modify it the way you want it, yada, yada, yada. But that's kind of your starting point if you just want to start playing with some different assets. All right. Well, I'm not going to mess with this right now, so I'm just going to delete this folder. All right. Now I had another asset pack that was called an interactive door or interactive physical door pack. And there was a demo scene for it. This is that demo scene for it. So you have these different doors, but I really couldn't figure out how to press the different. I think I probably have to read the README to get this. Because there's no click. But basically there's animations on these guys that, you know, you click the thing and the door will swing open. So we could do that, learn from it, make our doors swing open if we wanted them to swing open to make it seem more awesome. All right. So you can do that. I didn't. I just stole their the door model that they had. So back here in, I go into prefabs. I think I did this door prefab. That was the closed door. Here's an open door, whatever. So I just took the closed door prefab. I drug it into my scene 4 different times. Go back to my scenes here. Back to this guy. So notice here that I placed it in my scene. Now, just to get it placed conveniently, what I did is I made each one the child of my north, south, east exit. And then I rotated them appropriately. So they were facing the correct direction depending on where they were. Okay. And then I also positioned them kind of reasonably, but they already started at a decent position because I made them a child of the parent game object. So their position is relative to their parent. So here's the west. But what I did is I turned off the mesh renderer for our the yellow boxes we have. Those guys are still there. Those are still the things that we're having the on trigger enter. We've just kind of given our game a facelift. We didn't change our logic. We just put pretty stuff on top of our old logic and turned off the renderers for our old scene. So it looks better, but it's still functioning the same way it was functioning before. Make some sense? And that's the current state of things. Go ahead. Yep. Well, it depends on the player object you mess with. Yeah, I mean, you if you went and found some other player models on there, animated player models, there's tons of them on there. You know, if you find, for instance, here, I think I have one in, we go to my package manager, character pack, free sample. I'll go ahead and import this dude. So this is a free animated character dude. Go back to my assets. This it? Nope. I think this is it. And I'll go into the scenes. And here's our demo scene for this guy. So it already has my dude in there. So there he is. So, you know, it's already shown me how to do all those things. Oh, I can wave. Let's make him face us. You can pick up stuff. Oh, I got more characters. Oh, maybe not. Well, whatever. All right. So you get all these initial animations and stuff. And if you like this guy, you can then go and repurpose him for your game. But to your point, you might have to change the way that when he's allowed to move forward, when he's not allowed to move forward. Because right now he kind of free walks, right? So we might make it that he can't turn in the direction that to like the west, if there isn't an exit to the west, but we might let him still just freely walk rather than shove the guy down the hallway. Make sense? So yeah, you might have to modify for that stuff, because if he's not a sphere collider, he's not going to do a whole lot of really good rolling. One fun thing you can do is you can like attach a model like this, hang him off of your sphere. You know, right. But then turn the mesh render off for your sphere. So when this guy goes, you just flip it end over end, you know, and then you put like a little scream sound effect on there. Every single door is down like 4 or 5 of stone steps. Okay, right. So now you see where this is going, because as you start experimenting with this stuff, for those of you who have been finding this fun and you sit there and spend hours messing around with different things you can do, now all of a sudden you're going to spend 3-4 days of time screwing around with this and stuff instead of playing a video game, because you're making a video game. I promise you, your game's going to suck. All right. Okay. But you're learning these skills that you can then go and apply to other things. And because most of these things have your demo scenes or whatever, you can kind of see, oh, well, how does this guy work? And this can get connected back to what we've looked at with programming and looking at documentation. You're at the mercy of the programmer who made this this package. So when you bring it in, you have to go and look at, maybe they gave you some documentation to read about it to see how to use it. Otherwise, good place to start is go into the demo scene, click on the different things, see what scripts are hanging off them, go and look at those scripts and try to understand what code is there and how to call it. Okay. What things make him, turn to the west or north or whatever, it's using a face a certain direction thing. Actually, probably is facing a game object. And that then handles the rotation for you. We have these things called Euler angles where you can smoothly rotate to a direction, which it looked like I think he did. But you learn how to use it from that, but you're looking at somebody else's code and learning how to do something by the way they did it, even if it's not necessarily the way you would have done it. But
if we set the why this not for you?
Because I've written some code to do that. All right, so let's look at that now. All right. Oh, let me stop this guy. Okay, so and there's tons and tons and tons of free assets like that, which will have guys running around. There's going to be dungeony guys that look like things from like Diablo 2 and stuff, and there'll be more cartoony things, Mario-esque, Sonic the Hedgehog-esque, that kind of stuff. And those are all free. There's tons of paid ones that are going to be way higher quality. Yeah, they're going to cost you money. So you might as well get some experience with the free stuff. And then when you try to make something for real, and like Steam has an app store, this will target Android and iOS as well. So if you decide you want to make a game or an app that leverages these things, you can do that with the skills we're learning here. You build it, you upload it to the app store, you make sure that it passes their criteria, and now you can go and make the big bucks, right? Chances are you're going to be in that thing, especially with Steam, where they say, well, you haven't made $100 yet. So we're going to go ahead and hold back the money. And as soon as you make $100, then we'll distribute the money to you, but it's your money. Yeah, I think at some point we uploaded a game. I think it's made like $3, $4. And that's 4 years ago or something like that. It's just sitting up there. Some old VR game that we were putting together in one of the classes, the top seller. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my character guy here. So I'm just going to delete that folder. When you import it into your project, all it's doing is bringing in the folder with all the stuff associated with it in there. So I'll just delete it out there. If I decide I want it back, I just go back into my package manager and re-import it. Okay. And this triple dungeon. Oh, that's my blue dungeon thing, right? Yeah, we don't want that anymore either. All right. All right. So now I have my emptied out small cave where I effectively just have that cave parts thing that had all the different kinds of little things. And I hid the ones I didn't like. Right. That gives me a lot of options for my high definition game here. And then I also kept the materials and textures that thing uses. So I kept those things there. And then I have my doors here, and I actually am keeping a whole lot more with the doors than I need because I just grabbed one of their prefabs, but I don't know what I can't delete right now, so we're just not going to screw with it. So we have pretty doors, and I just turned off the colliders on them so my guy can just roll right through the door and everybody's happy. But it looks like a door. Okay, because we all know that all creepy caves have nice, solid, nice looking doors on in every direction that you might want to roll. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my scenes. All right, so this is back to my dungeon room. So any question on how I kind of facelifted my thing without actually changing much of my logic behind the scenes? I'm still bumping into the hit boxes on our invisible yellow exits, right? I just turn their mesh render off, which means you can't see it. It still exists, it's still there, but you can't see it. All right, so now what came up, well, first of all, let me, since we want to, here's our monster triggers. Oh, enable fights, yeah. So I give us this little box here that says fights don't happen anymore, right? So I'm going to go ahead and check that because we're going to be wanting to test our fight scene, right? And I'm going to make one other update to this guy. I'll go back to my script, and we're going to also, where is my monster trigger? We're going to give ourselves another public variable, public bool. We'll call this guy chance to get into fight. And we'll call this, oh, it's not a bool, it's a double. Actually, we'll call this float. So we'll start it off at 30, which is, we said we have a 30% chance to get into a fight. So then down here, we'll just use that variable instead of hard code of 30. All right. So now when I go back over to Unity, because I made that variable public, we're going to see for all these, the chance to get into a fight is currently 30. I'll just change it to 100. We're going to be testing our fight scene. So we'll just make sure that we always get into a fight now. Make sense? And that way I can easily manipulate it here. If I decide that 30% is too frustrating, I can set it to 20% or 15% or whatever. Or I could set it to 0%, and then we'll never get into a fight, or I could just hit the enable fights thing and we'll never get into a fight either. But now we should always get into fights. Remember though, you have to set this for all your triggers. Remember, our triggers are in the different directions. So I have that script attached to each one. So make sure you highlight all of them before you start messing with that number. So now we'll hit play and we are guaranteed to get into a fight. All right. Okay, because that's what we're testing. Now you ask the question, how did I make the music stop? All right, so let's go and look at the logic for how did we transition to that fight scene, right? We'd already written this last class, right? So I think that was in the monster trigger. All right, so if we're going to get into a fight, right here is what I do. I reset the stuff right there, 2 lines of code. I destroy the game object associated with my music looper, the one that's currently set, right? I'm making the assumption that the music's currently looping because I I know that that jukebox existed one time when we first started, and the music's playing because I just got into a fight because I'm rolling around in the rooms and stuff, right? So I could have asked, is it equal to null, blah, blah, which would tell me the music's not playing, whatever. But I just assume music must be playing. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to ask master data to give me the game object for our music looper, and I'll go ahead and destroy it. Now the music's off. We no longer have components that play music. Secondarily, I'll go ahead and switch that guy back to null so that if I ever do come back to this room scene, it'll start playing the music again. Make sense? So again, I'm just using the rules of Unity. We're in the matrix here. We're using the rules, and the way I've accomplished turning music on and turning music off, I've just made these guys compatible. You know, I could just put this up inside of master data and have like a, turn music on, turn music off function or something, but I'm going to have a couple of different sounds that I'm going to be playing. When all is said and done, we probably could have written certain aspects of this better, but we didn't. So we're gonna roll with that. All right. So now we want to go ahead and get now the idea here is when we get into a fight scene, we're not going to be switching scenes away from that guy. So we can go ahead and put our music playing in that fight scene. So I'm just going to switch over to our fight scene here. Now I can create a jukebox in here if I just like that idea, if I like the source of my music, or since we're never going to be doing that whole keep alive thing, you can attach it to the camera if you want. Kind of whatever you want. You wouldn't want to have multiple cameras in a scene though. That was going to start looking kind of funky. But if you want to keep things kind of nicely configured, you might just right click, say, I want to create an empty object. We'll call this guy a jukebox. I'll go into my assets. I'll go into my audio. I created this. And this guy is, that's the victory. That's the intro. Okay, so I want the far left one. So I'll go ahead and drag this guy over here. And there is my audio source, audio clip. I'm going to go ahead and click loop here. So now whenever we get into a fight, it's going to turn into that music. All right, and we should be able to test this by starting off with our dungeon room. All right. So now maybe we decide, you know what? Maybe we want our dungeon room to kind of take advantage of some of these dungeon picture thingamajiggies, right? All right, so I will go back over to my fight scene. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my, is it the cave? I'll go into the cave here. I'm going to drag cave parts in. And this guy kind of looks like it's maybe like a good fight area, right? So that's this guy right here. So I'll turn off everything else, just highlight it all. Just turn it off. Now I just have this dude. Then I'll go ahead and rotate him. Oh. Rotate cave parts. Oh, wrong way. Done. I want to do it this way. So that is on the Z, right? Oh. Last try. Nope. What am I doing? Oh. So I need to do either -90 or I need to do 180. 240. There we go. Nailed it. Or I could have just done this rotation thing and gotten it close to what I wanted and then build it back out. And now I'll position him kind of where I want him in that room. All right, so I have my kind of my fight area there. You know, and maybe we want to put better monsters in the room so we can go out and find assets that have, you know, cooler monsters that we might want to have fight. Let's look at that. So let's go with monster. And we'll choose free assets. Oh man, look at these dudes. Oh, here's goblin guys. Oh, we can use this guy's and look at that slasher. They're gonna look right. I think that will actually look right for our 2D thing. So I'll add that to my asset pack. Accept. I will open in Unity. Bring this up. I'll go ahead and download it. I'll go ahead and import it. I have it in there. I'll go ahead and dump my couple of monsters. Well, actually, if I want to keep the monsters in there for a moment, let's just see what these guys look like. Where are they? Monsters. And I can go look at the demo and see how it works because these guys are animated too. Maybe give ourselves a couple of. Do I not have well, the sprites should have been where the main thing was. So I guess I could throw idle in there. Then I have to create an animation around him. I'll just call this guy idle goblin. No, I'll have to mess with it to get the actual visual of him there because I don't need him dancing around or anything yet. But in any case, what I'll probably do is I'll position him where I want him instead of hanging them off these two monsters. But in any case, that's what we'll mess with for next time. But we're actually going to write our logic here for the actual fight. We're not going to spend a lot of time messing with animations and stuff, but hopefully I've given you enough material that you can go in and play around with making your dungeon look cooler if you'd like. Otherwise, no homework for Friday. So now that you've seen a couple of things, so for audience request, we'll pick up from here on Friday. I will push the current version of my code. So if you want to take a look at that, you can.
Do you talk right now, or do you have a meeting?
I have a meeting in 4 minutes. I can probably do a Zoom thing this afternoon sometime. What time are you around this afternoon?
So probably like after, like I finish with late at 2. So I mean, like after that, I guess.
Okay.
I have probably not too late though because it's my brother's birthday.
Okay. So like a 2:30-ish
Yeah,
you could do?
yeah, like Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you an invite with the Zoom link in it.
Okay.
How about that?
It might be a little weird to do it on Zoom though.
No, because you can share your screen with me and then I can also control your screen and debug it out. Yeah. So it actually was better because I'll be able to see your screen better than if you're holding it in front of me.
Okay.
So we'll give it a shot. Sound good? Okay. Okay.
I don't know what it is. I took the giving code. It's pretty weird. So the ball just keeps going to the bottom right, no matter what I do.